Hello and welcome to Four Little Bears. Today let's make my Craft Roulette card for episode 228. Craft Roulette is an online card making game show challenge that's on every Friday night. The link is down below. Hopefully I'll see you there on Friday. So for this contribution, this episode was card with square, bee garden colors. The element was Monday, and for random it's use a marker. So for this one, my first thought was a quilt card because they have lots of squares in them. And you can kind of see how I lay out my quilt cards. My square is 3.5 by 3.5. And basically I went through and scored it at every 1/2 inch to make a grid and then colored it in based on what kind of colors I think I'm going to be using in my project. For this project, I'm going to use an Echo Park paper pad for my bee garden colors. I don't know how more appropriate you can get. This is called Happy As Can Be, B-E-E. It has all about bees. This is a beautiful pad. I love this paper pad. So if you've never played Craft Roulette before, there is a literal roulette wheel that spins to see what kind of project you're making, what kind of colors it should be, an element, and then something random. It's really fun if you get in a rut, or just to play along and hang out with Miss Mary Gunn Funn. Now that I've got my papers picked out, I'm just going to put these into 1/2 inch strips. I'm blind, so I have to pick this up for myself. There are little measurements on the right side of my trimmer. That's why I had to pick it up so I could see those measurements. But I'll just cut those into 1/2 inch strips. I did not need 3 of each, but I went ahead and did that anyway. I'll make a couple more. I don't know about you, but Monday kind of threw me a loop until I remembered that I have a Winnie the Pooh stamp set. And I'm like, oh yeah, you make Monday Bearable. Bear, like Pooh Bear. But anyway, I thought I would give this to my work bestie because, well, everyone needs a work bestie that makes Monday Bearable. So because I have this all laid out now, I know which pieces I need to cut and to what lengths because each square is 1/2 inch. For my pattern, I combined 2. My center square is I believe it's called a star pattern, and then a log cabin all the way around it, I think is what you call that. So I just went ahead and lined these up, cut them out, and lined them up on my template, which again is 3.5 by 3.5 with 1/2 inch squares. For my sentiment, for my Monday sentiment specifically, I took this into Illustrator and just printed out a few to make sure I got the right size. And it's just a cute little sentiment that says you make Monday bearable. Again, I just typed this out with fonts that were already in Illustrator. But you could also do this with Word, anything else that you have or that you're comfortable with. Well, I've got the trimmer here. I'll just use this for my background. So I'm going to cut this like a regular matte layer to 4 by 5.25. And for my matte layers for my quilt square, since my quilt square is 3.5, I'm just going to give it a small matte layer at 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And I'll save that one for my sentiment matte layer. So now that everything is cut out, all I have to do is glue it all down. I find it really helpful to go ahead and color in my design with those alcohol markers. For my star pattern, it's already really tiny pieces, so I'm not going to care that these overlap. It's not really very noticeable at all. However, if you don't like that it's not quite on the same level as the rest of it, you could run it through an embossing folder, and that would help kind of smush it all together, and you'd never be able to tell that each of the star layers is really 3 layers thick. For the star layers, I have my white background, and then the green and the blue overlapping triangles. I'm using art glitter glue here, but if you want a little bit more wiggle room, I would recommend Bearable Arts glue. It gives you just that tiny bit more wiggle room, but it still dries really fast. I'm definitely going to be doing a glue comparison later on this week because I've noticed myself really gravitating to the Bearable Arts, whereas art glitter glue used to be my absolute favorite. So I'm curious to see if I run it through some tests, which one's actually better. Or maybe they're both valid. Maybe they're both valid for different things. My own opinion, obviously, because everyone has their own opinion on glue. I'm coming through now with a little glue eraser to erase any glue marks, and then I'll go ahead and finish my star out. To do those, I'll just take 2 1/2 inch squares that are green, and I'm going to cut those in half diagonally. And I'll do the same with my blue pieces. That'll give me 4 triangles each. And then I'll just go around those on top of the white center squares. And as I said earlier, these little star sections in the middle here are going to technically be 3 layers thick, but honestly, you can't really tell. And if you ran it through an embossing folder, you definitely would not be able to tell. I get that glue eraser again. I think I got these on Amazon. And because no one can cut perfectly, myself especially, I especially cannot cut perfectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim up these edges. And then I'll go ahead and mat it on the little matting layer. Again, my square is 3.5 by 3.5, so my matting layer is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 square. So in order to make my bottom mat, I'm just going to measure how much space I have left and then give it about 1/4 inch gap all the way around. So in this case, it's 1 inch by 4. And then I'll just trim my sentiment up so that it has a little space around it also. So since that's by 4, it would be about 3 1/4, 3.5, sorry. It's 3.5. 3.5 by 3/4 is the actual sentiment itself. Now I could stop here, but that's a cop-out because I only use the markers underneath and you can't see that. Plus, in order to make my sentiment make sense for it to be bearable, I want to use my bears. So I'm going to stamp out and color in Winnie the Pooh and a couple of his friends. I can't wait to give this to my work bestie. I think they're going to love it. This stamp set is from Echo Park's last collection that they sent out. I don't have the main packaging anymore, so I don't know if it's actually Echo Park or if it's Cartabel. I think it's Echo Park. I think all their stamps are their own. I'm just going to stamp out and then color 2 of each just because I'm not exactly sure how I want to do these yet. So I'll give myself a couple chances. At first, I wanted to give these a little bit of depth, but I realized I couldn't. Those stamps are just so small, especially Piglet is just so tiny. I couldn't really do too much with it. At least not with my old eyeballs. Somebody younger might be able to. Luckily, Pooh and his friends all end up in my bee garden color theme. I'm just going to say that the pink in Piglet are some roses in my garden. I'll just go through here and swatch out some colors, figure out which ones I like best. These are Ohuhu markers. They're one of my favorites. That's another video coming up soon, too. I found alcohol markers at Five Below. I understand they're not going to be the great quality that Ohuhu is, but for something like this, I think they'd be fine. I can't really do any blending here anyway. They're so little. But I'm going to test them out anyway. Here's where I test every yellow in my entire set just to come back to the first one that I swatched. Yellow's a hard color to get, and Winnie the Pooh is a hard color yellow to figure out. Here's where I'm going to try in vain to fade this out. It's just too small. A tip for using alcohol markers, light colors, especially for some reason yellow. Also the light pink, but especially yellow. Let your ink dry really well, no matter what ink you're using. For this one, I used VersaFine because it's what I usually use. Memento would also work here. You need you need water-based for alcohol markers. But yeah, make sure they dry, whatever you're using, make sure it dries really well. Otherwise, the yellow will pull the black and kind of muddy up your image. The best ink for alcohol markers is going to be the Memento because it is water-based. And then I don't have dies for this, so I'm just going to cut it out with scissors. Fussy cut. This Piglet is seriously so stinking small. He was a little hard to fussy cut. I mean, I think he's roughly about a ½ inch. He feels absolutely tiny. Then I'll just lay these guys out, glue it on, and finish up my card. I hope to see you in the chatterbox of Craft Roulette next Friday night. Again, it is on every Friday night. I'll link her show down below. It's with Miss Mary Gunn Funn. And it is a whole lot of fun, and there's a whole lot of prizes you can win for participating. Ooh, I forgot about this part. These are little resin dots that I made a while ago. There's a video on that too. I'll link it down below if you want to see it. But I'm just going to pick out some nice pale yellow resin dots that I had made just to give that little sentiment a little something extra. There we go. How do you think I did? I've got project card with the square. I've got lots of little squares in that quilt block. Bee garden colors, black, yellow, blue for the sky, green for the grass of the garden, red for the roses in the garden. My Monday sentiment, you make Monday bearable. And I used a marker once for cheating on the background that you can't see anymore, but also on my little characters. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I hope to see you on Craft Roulette. Please comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, share. Every little bit helps. As always, guys, have a great week. Stay safe and stay blessed.